Harry and Meghan's detractors have been calling for them to be stripped of their HRH since they left the royal family over 5 years ago.
Harry has finally had his HRH title stripped from the royal family website.
Of course, they were getting it from every which direction when, Meghan and Harry were off on their gallivanting, we want privacy tour.
On February 3rd, 2026, Buckingham Palace issued a statement that permanently ended Prince Harry's royal existence. King Charles III stripped him of every title, military appointment, and honorary affiliation through a signed public constitutional directive, not a private family agreement. The document referred to him simply as Henry Mountbatten Windsor. This isn't about family tension or protocol disagreements. According to reports, FBI agents executed a sealed search warrant at Harry's Montecito mansion and allegedly uncovered something explosive enough to trigger a cross-continental criminal investigation, an intelligence crisis in British security, and what palace insiders called the most significant royal severance of the modern era. The question isn't whether this was possible. It's how it reached this scale. The raid. What happened on January 31st? Let's begin with the event that set everything in motion. On the 31st of January 2026, the Federal Bureau of Investigation executed a sealed search warrant at the Montecito residence of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The warrant, reportedly tied to case number 343, covered wire fraud, false statements, and the potential misuse of charitable funds. Federal agents entered the property and seized digital evidence and financial records in what sources described as a systematic, thorough, professionally executed operation. This was not a fishing expedition. Sealed warrants of this nature require the prior approval of a federal judge. They require probable cause, documented specific reviewable cause, for investigators to believe that evidence of a crime exists at the location they intend to search. The bar is high, the process is deliberate, and the fact that the warrant was sealed means that whatever triggered the investigation had been accumulating for some time before federal agents ever knocked on that door. According to reports, the investigation itself had reportedly begun in late October 2025, following the submission of an encrypted whistleblower file through Interpol's UK liaison office. Someone with specific knowledge and documented evidence had made a decision to come forward, and what they allegedly brought forward was enough to set both American federal investigators and British intelligence on a course that would culminate in the most dramatic royal crisis of the 21st century. Within 48 hours of the raid, a private diplomatic communication had relayed the FBI's initial findings to the royal household via the UK Home Office. And 2 days after that, on the 3rd of February, King Charles signed the Windsor Reformation Directive, Article 7. The speed of that response tells you everything you need to know about what was allegedly found inside that California home. 3 allegations that changed everything. The FBI investigation, as reported, centers on 3 major categories of alleged misconduct. Each one on its own would be serious. Together they form a picture that the palace apparently could not ignore, and reportedly chose not to. The first allegation is the unauthorized transfer of over $4.8 million from the Archewell Foundation to personal consulting entities linked to Meghan Markle's commercial team. Charitable foundations in the United States operate under strict legal frameworks. The funds that donors entrust to those organizations are not personal resources. They cannot be redirected to entities with personal financial connections to the foundation's leadership without triggering serious legal questions. If this allegation is accurate, and we must be clear that these are alleged findings under investigation, it represents a fundamental violation of the trust that charitable donors extend when they open their wallets for a cause. The second allegation is arguably more technically complex, but no less serious. the existence of a private encrypted server inside the Montecito property. According to reports, this server was used to store donor communications, identity verification documents, and foreign correspondence, none of which was disclosed to US or UK charity regulators. Regulators cannot oversee what they cannot see, and the deliberate concealment of material that is supposed to be subject to oversight is not an oversight. It is a choice. The third allegation is perhaps the most viscerally disturbing because it involves not just money or data, it involves the deliberate exploitation of the dead. Investigators allegedly uncovered evidence of at least 4 forged donor acknowledgements. Among them, a falsified signature from a deceased British veteran used to promote a 2023 Invictus fundraising campaign. The Invictus Games, a cause built on the sacrifice and resilience of wounded military personnel, and someone allegedly forged the name of a dead veteran to raise money from donors who believed they were honoring service. There are moments in a story like this when the facts simply need to stand without commentary. This is one of them. We need to stop here and ask you something directly. When you think about these 3 allegations, the missing millions, the hidden server, the forged veteran's signature, which one strikes you as the most damaging? Not just legally, but morally. Tell us below, because the answer to that question reveals a lot about what this entire situation actually is. The palace responds: Anne, William, and the King's decree. The British royal family is an institution that has navigated centuries of scandal, war, abdication, and revolution. It does not panic. It does not react impulsively. Every statement it releases has been reviewed by lawyers, vetted by advisors, and calibrated with a level of strategic precision that the outside world rarely sees. Which is why the speed and the sheer directness of its response to the FBI findings should tell you something profound about what the institution believed it was dealing with. Princess Anne moved first. Acting in her official capacity as constable of the royal household, she delivered a rarely convened emergency press conference from St. James's Palace. The language she used was not diplomatic cushioning. It was surgical and deliberate. "This is not a quiet removal," she declared. "This is a constitutional and reputational response. The monarchy will not tolerate the concealment of fraud, the distortion of military service for profit, or the unauthorized use of the crown's symbolic weight for personal enrichment. We choose national honor over familial silence." National honor over familial silence. Let those words sit with you for a moment, because within that single phrase is a direct acknowledgement of exactly what the palace is saying it could have done, but chose not to. It could have kept this quiet. It had kept things quiet before. The British royal family has a long documented history of choosing institutional protection over public transparency. This time, they chose otherwise. And the question of why they made that choice is one we will return to. Prince William followed shortly after, making a brief but pointed statement. "No one is above the values of duty, transparency, and service. My father's decision is absolute. It is my duty to affirm that we will defend these standards even when it costs us privately." That final phrase, "even when it costs us privately," is William being extraordinarily candid about the personal dimension of what is happening. This is his brother, the man he grew up with, the boy who stood beside him at their mother's funeral, and William is publicly affirming the decision to strip him of everything. Reports indicate that William had played a critical role in the events leading to this moment, allegedly coordinating intelligence sharing between the palace's Legal Integrity Office and the Metropolitan Police's Special Financial Crimes Directorate, culminating in a cross-jurisdictional memorandum delivered to U.S. counterparts in December 2025. This was not a passive palace, This was an institution that had been actively, deliberately building the case. And then came the King. Royal Order D-226, signed personally by King Charles III, countersigned by the Privy Council, the Lord Chamberlain, and the Keeper of the Royal Archives, formally terminated the recognition of the Duke of Sussex title, removed all HR references from international registers, disqualified Henry Mountbatten Windsor from the line of succession, voided all ceremonial, diplomatic, and military appointments, and, in its final clause, delivered what may be the most final words ever formally applied to a member of the House of Windsor. Henceforth, he shall be recognized neither in title nor in duty as a representative of the Crown or of its historic lineage. The meeting in the Crimson Room. What really happened? Now we take you behind the closed doors, because what reportedly unfolded inside Windsor Castle before the public announcements were made is the kind of scene that history books are built from. On January 29th, at 9:45 in the morning, King Charles convened a rare full-house royal assembly inside the Crimson Drawing Room at Windsor Castle. Every senior member of the family was summoned. The only absentees were Harry and Meghan. Two people were notably absent from the meeting about them. Princess Anne entered first, granite-faced, carrying a red folder marked Devolution Dossier, Sussex Declassification. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, entered with her. William arrived last, escorting Catherine, who wore a simple navy ensemble, somber, deliberate, symbolic. At the head of the long table sat King Charles. His signet ring had reportedly already been removed. In the visual language of the monarchy, that is not an accident. That is a signal. Constitutional detachment had already begun. Anne opened the proceedings by distributing redacted reports from the FBI Montecito vault, sealed audio transcripts, metadata logs, and chain of custody photographs collected during federal operations. What those reports allegedly revealed staggered the room. An unlicensed offshore media fund registered in Meghan Markle's name listing multiple royal properties, including Frogmore Cottage and Clarence House, as legacy assets. Digital contracts outlining undisclosed brand exploitation deals that potentially involved the children's photographs, possibly in violation of the Windsor Accord on Royal Child Protections. 3 encrypted hard drives from a vault inside the residence, containing emails allegedly detailing monetization plans built on internal palace records dating back to 2019. William, according to those present, broke the silence first. His fists were reportedly clenched. "We warned him. We warned them both. But Harry didn't just sell the family. He sold the institution, and he used our children to do it." Princess Anne's response was short and final. "He is no longer to be treated as Windsor-born. The shield no longer protects him." And then King Charles spoke. "We protected them with silence, and they returned it with a playbook of betrayal." That line, and the room reportedly fell completely still when he said it, captures the entire arc of the relationship between the palace and the Sussex operation from 2020 to this moment. Years of restraint, years of choosing quiet over confrontation. And now, according to the king, that silence had been weaponized against the institution that extended it. We have to ask you this: do you think the palace waited too long? Or do you think the timing, waiting until the federal investigation provided irrefutable documented grounds, was actually the right strategic call? This is one of the most important questions in this entire saga. Let us know below. The security crisis. When this became bigger than a family matter. Here is where the story stops being about family dynamics and titles and becomes something considerably more serious, something with genuine national security dimensions. On February 2nd, 2026 at 1100 hours, a confidential briefing took place at the Cabinet Office Briefing Rooms, COBR, the room where the United Kingdom manages its most serious national emergencies. In attendance, the Home Secretary, the Director of GCHQ, the Chief of MI5, and representatives from the Royal Household Security Division. The FBI's evidence bundle had been formally classified as security relevant and institutionally destabilizing. Let that sink in. The Cabinet Office Briefing Rooms, the same facility used to coordinate responses to terrorist attacks, pandemics, and major national crises, was convened over evidence obtained from a California residential search. That tells you something about the scale of what was allegedly found. According to the official royal communiqué released following the COBR meeting, the evidence bundle included digital communications, metadata, encrypted transfers, and 3 sealed testimonies obtained under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. The documents allegedly revealed that Prince Harry had knowingly received material assistance, financial and logistical, from a foreign lobbying group with undisclosed ties to sovereign adversaries of the United Kingdom. The entities in question, reportedly registered in the Seychelles and the UAE, were traced back to controlled front organizations designed to influence UK media narratives and gain backdoor access to confidential briefings involving Veterans Affairs, royal ceremonial planning, and UK-US diplomatic initiatives. And then came the discovery that a GCHQ and National Cybersecurity Center joint statement described as an unwitting institutional compromise of sovereign planning infrastructure. Prince Harry had allegedly contracted a Dubai-based digital firm under a non-disclosure agreement for what was presented as cloud storage optimization. What forensic analysis by British and American cyber experts reportedly revealed was that this firm had been exporting, replicating, and cross-indexing privileged communications involving royal scheduling, military patronage negotiations, and classified institutional planning. Among the files exposed, military routing schedules, royal household cybersecurity protocols, and archived correspondence dating back to Queen Elizabeth II's post-Brexit Commonwealth meetings. One high-ranking royal aide, speaking anonymously, reportedly said, "This isn't betrayal, it's a cathedral built on stolen keys." That phrase will stay with observers of this saga for a very long time. William and Anne. The decisive moves. In the hours and days that followed the COBR briefing, Prince William and Princess Anne moved with a speed and coordination that left observers in no doubt that this was a managed, deliberate institutional response, not an emotional one. At noon on February 3rd, Prince William filed a formal declaration of legal disassociation from his brother with the Royal Household Legal Affairs Registry. The document revoked all previous informal accords regarding shared royal representation, armed protection, crossover rights, and access to the Royal Military Family Fund. The public version of the declaration, distributed by Buckingham Palace that same afternoon, stated with stark clarity, "Effective immediately, the Prince of Wales shall no longer maintain any joint, charitable, ceremonial, or logistical association with Prince Henry, Charles Albert David. All previous standing privileges, courtesies, and cooperative engagements are hereby nullified." Simultaneously, Princess Anne executed Clause 17 of the Royal Institutional Discipline Charter, a clause last invoked in 1972, allowing for the formal excommunication of any blood member whose actions are deemed systemically corrosive to the institution's integrity and security. This was not a temporary suspension. This was a permanent institutional declaration. Meanwhile, in parallel to the legal and security responses, Princess Catherine made a rare public appearance at Windsor Chapel to mark the close of the Candlemas season. She made no direct mention of recent events, but her final words resonated with unmistakable precision. It is not the crown that defines character, but the conscience that honors it. The crowd gave a standing ovation, and observers noted that Catherine was wearing Queen Elizabeth II's sapphire and diamond brooch, historically associated with moral clarity and continuity, passed to her in a private ceremony by King Charles in December. A symbolic transfer of spiritual guardianship that, in hindsight, reads as deliberate preparation for this moment. Finally, on February 6th, King Charles approved what the palace called the Order of Erasure, a 5-page decree permanently removing Prince Harry's style of Royal Highness and revoking his lineal coat of arms from all official heraldic registries. A smaller clause, added at William's request, banned the use of Royal Sussex in any digital or commercial format, enforceable under international intellectual property treaties. The final line of the Order of Erasure reads, "By command of the Crown, the line that turned against the house shall hold no title, no token, and no shield." The Camilla complication and the wider fallout. No story of this magnitude arrives without complications. And in this case, the complication takes the form of a wine tasting in Montecito and a case of vintage Bordeaux. Queen Camilla's name reportedly appeared twice in the FBI's redacted timeline, not as a perpetrator, but as what investigators characterized as an unwitting enabler. On November 15th, her son Tom Parker Bowles attended a private gathering at the Montecito estate with 3 unidentified foreign investors. Leaked hotel records revealed these individuals arrived under diplomatic aliases and met behind closed doors for over 4 hours. Camilla, reportedly unaware of the broader implications, had allegedly encouraged the gathering, believing her son was pursuing a culinary diplomacy initiative. She had even reportedly sent a case of vintage Bordeaux, labeled Buckingham 1961. The optics, as one source put it with considerable understatement, were disastrous. By February 6th, Camilla was forced to issue a personal statement through Clarence House. "I regret the incident, though I was never privy to any misuse of our family's identity or legacy. I have requested my son temporarily suspend all engagements involving royal endorsement." Tom Parker Bowles was quietly removed from all royal charity boards the same afternoon. Social media erupted with the hashtag Windsor Wine Leak. Small protests appeared outside Clarence House. The phrase culinary diplomacy arm of the crown became a lightning rod for ridicule. Camilla's absence from subsequent advisory sessions and public events sparked renewed speculation about her diminished influence within the palace power structure, particularly as Catherine and Anne emerged as the dominant institutional voices of the post-Harry moment. What happens now? The succession, the children, the investigation. Let us be precise about what has changed and what changes next. Harry's digital erasure from royal registers, court rolls, and ceremonial listings was completed at midnight on February 6th. The official royal website has removed all references to his former titles, patronages, and military honors. The court circular, the official journal of royal engagements, now lists him as Henry Mountbatten Windsor, with no designation attached. The roles revoked include Honorary Air Commandant of RAF, Hon-Ing D. Honington, Captain General of the Royal Marines, Patron of the Rugby Football League, all Commonwealth Trust ambassadorial duties, and the right to use HRH in any ceremonial or philanthropic setting. The HR titles for Archie and Lilibet were declared void in formal court filings, citing misuse of monarchical identity. The UK Intellectual Property Office was instructed to block all pending product extensions referencing British royal figures. And in perhaps the most quietly devastating personal blow, Princess Catherine sent a private letter to the Archbishop of Canterbury requesting a spiritual review of ceremonies involving Sussex offspring, raising questions over the legitimacy of past rites based on what she described as misrepresentation of parental status. On the legal front, British prosecutors have submitted a notice of intent to investigate under the Proceeds of Crime Act regarding Prince Harry's undeclared offshore holdings. In the United States, the Internal Revenue Service and the Department of Justice have opened inquiries into possible tax evasion, illicit asset shielding, and false statement filings. The FBI has reportedly forwarded a sealed indictment to the United States Attorney's Office for the Central District of California. Multiple streaming platforms and publishers have paused negotiations related to Sussex content, citing reputational risk. Former executives have been subpoenaed as cooperating witnesses, and Meghan Markle, whose name appears frequently in the FBI warrants appendix, has not been charged with anything. But sources close to the palace indicate that further disclosures relating to her financial management activities are pending review by U.S. prosecutors. The Privy Council's severance protocol, a 42-page internal document, makes clear that all security protections, palace access rights, and travel privileges under the Windsor Accord of 2020 are immediately discontinued. The palace has also confirmed, in what it described as a commitment to transparency, that all institutional steps, including the King's title stripping order, have been made accessible to accredited press outlets. The official directive reads, "The royal family shall not operate in shadows where national stability is concerned. The British people deserve clarity, not choreography." The final verdict and the question that remains. A nationwide poll conducted on February 5th by Ipsos UK found that 79% of respondents supported King Charles's decision to revoke all of Harry's titles. 85% believe Meghan should no longer be referred to with any royal styling. And over 91% said the monarchy was right to protect its legacy from further exploitation. Whether those numbers reflect permanent public sentiment or the immediate heat of a breaking news cycle, only time will tell. But what they signal about the current relationship between the British public and the House of Windsor is unmistakable. The institution's credibility has not just survived this crisis. By choosing transparency over familial silence, it may have been strengthened by it. And Harry, the man who was born a prince, raised for a life of service, fought in 2 tours of Afghanistan, married in one of the most watched ceremonies in television history, and then walked away from all of it. Where does he stand now? Not in succession, not in title, not apparently in his family's trust or protection. Reportedly attempting to make quiet phone calls to the palace that are going unanswered. Reportedly fighting with the woman he gave everything up for, mostly about money. Reportedly distancing himself from her decisions, including the Dubai entry attempt she allegedly made without his full knowledge, even as the walls close in on both of them. The order of erasure has been signed. The decree is final, and its last words are now part of the historical record of the British monarchy. By command of the Crown, the line that turned against the House shall hold no title, no token, and no shield. Here is what we want from you today, and we mean this. We want your complete, honest, unfiltered reaction. Do you think King Charles made the right call? Do you believe the FBI allegations as reported? Do you have sympathy for Harry? Or do you think he made his choices and is now facing their consequences? And the question that may be the most important of all, do you think there is any version of this story in which things could still turn around for him? Because right now, with the decree signed and the gates shut, the ending no longer looks like a fairy tale. It looks like a verdict. Leave your thoughts below. Share this video if you think people need to hear this story told in full. Hit subscribe, because this saga is not over. The investigations are ongoing. The prosecutors are moving, and the next chapter is already being written. We will be here when it breaks.